When a future bride's mother-in-law tried on the dress that she was considering wearing to her wedding, the future bride was taken aback but not surprised. Mel, who was from Lancashire, was eager to show off her new physique after undergoing some cosmetic surgery, which included a boob and nose jobs. She couldn't wait to get married to Ollie, who was her partner. She chose a stunning see-through wedding dress from designer Enzawani that cost £2,500 to celebrate her newly discovered self-assurance, and she stated that she loved the appearance. When Mel was asked about her difficulties with confidence and how it felt to emerge on the other side, she admitted, "I'm really different to how I used to be. I was in a relationship that was a little bit unhappy. I wasn't pleased with myself, and I was made to feel as if I wasn't good enough, I wasn't attractive. If I may be so bold as to say it, it was almost as if I was being contained within a box. That it was impossible for me to be the person that I knew on some level I was." However, Mel came to the realization that not everyone was a fan of her gown choice when she appeared on the hit series Say Yes to the Dress Lancashire, which was broadcast on TLC in the year 2020. In particular, her mother-in-law Denise was not a fan of her decision. Mel, who had a butterfly tattoo to symbolize her transition from feeling like a caterpillar to being a butterfly, stepped out in the risky outfit when the episode aired 3 years ago. She had tried on dresses that were slightly more modest before she decided to wear the daring garment. "I love it, I do. I absolutely love it," she screamed after finishing her sentence. "Hey, it's me. When I look in the mirror, I am filled with a sense of pride for myself. I am proud of my body, and I am proud of the things that I have accomplished. This garment is how I tell my story." However, it was immediately apparent that Denise was not impressed by the daring number, which had lace that was so see-through that it barely covered her body. She yelled, "Oh no!" while putting her hands to her face, and her mouth continued to drop. Denise's jaw continued to drop. She then went on to say, "I have a great deal of respect for you, Mel," after having previously stated that she would be fairly firm with her opinion. "And I am aware that you have gone a long way, and I am familiar with some of the details of your journey, but it is unquestionably not the case. It is not you, my sweetheart. Moreover, the very act of gazing at it is making me feel quite unwell. In all honesty, I do not like it." Following that, Denise went even farther in her critique of the outfit by describing it as vile. In continuation of her outburst, she stated, "I am unable to see the more gentle Mel in there. It's possible that you may wear it to bed or for anything else." Denise merely shook her head in response to Mel's suggestion that she could enhance it even more by pairing it with a pair of white underwear that were embellished with diamantes. However, it appears that Denise was not the only one who felt this way, as Mel's best friend Lean took her side and stated that she did not like anything about the dress. During her explanation, she stated, "Babe, it is the day of your wedding and Ollie would have a fit." Mel reflected on the event and was quoted as saying, "Ollie's mother's face just went bright red. I think she wanted to cry." Afterwards, she continued by saying, "They were all like, 'No, I hate it.' During that time, I was thinking to myself, hold on, I really like this, so I'm going to take this to the place that I want to leads it." Later on, Mel and the bridal party came to an agreement on a compromise, and Mel chose to wear a dress that was slightly see-through, but she also wore clothing that was more formal than the others, which caused her to cry. Following Mel's description of it as utterly perfect, it did not only receive approval from Mel, but also from the other people, including Denise, Mel's mother-in-law. Her conclusion was that the smile on her face while she was wearing that dress was lovely. The wedding day is one of the most significant moments in a woman's life, a day when she expects to be surrounded by love, admiration, and joy. It is a day when dreams are realized and memories are created, as she walks down the aisle, dressed in a gown she has likely envisioned since childhood. Yet, for many women, this cherished moment can be overshadowed by the judgment of others, particularly from those they least expect, family members. One of the most poignant sources of potential conflict can come from the mother-in-law, whose opinions about the bride's appearance on her wedding day can make or break the event's emotional atmosphere. In this case, a newly engaged bride is facing controversy not because of the beauty of her wedding gown, but because of the daring nature of its design. The gown in question is a modern creation, sleek, daring, and perhaps more revealing than the traditional bridal attire one might imagine. Featuring sheer elements that leave little to the imagination, this wedding dress is a bold statement in its own right, an embodiment of the bride's personality and confidence. Yet, for her mother-in-law, this gown crosses a line that she deems unacceptable, labeling the outfit vile and even claiming it made her feel physically ill. What happens when a mother-in-law takes issue with the bride's attire? What does this disagreement say about societal expectations, family dynamics, and the complex relationship between a woman and the people she marries into? This is a story that underscores the fine line between personal taste, family expectations, and the emotional weight that can surround wedding planning. A day of dreams or a day of discomfort? At the heart of any wedding lies the dress, the iconic symbol of a bride's individuality, cultural traditions, and hopes for her future. A wedding gown is often seen as more than just an article of clothing, it's a piece of her identity. It represents purity, beauty, and love, but also a moment of personal expression. For some brides, the gown is a manifestation of their personality, tastes, and even their resistance to convention. The bride in question knew exactly what she wanted: a gown that was far from traditional, something that would stand out and make a statement. She had chosen a wedding dress that was both stunning and revealing. The design featured a high neckline and intricate lace detailing, but it also incorporated sheer, translucent fabric in key places, leaving parts of her body partially exposed. It was a bold choice, one that said, "This is who I am." For her, the gown was a beautiful reflection of her confidence, her modern approach to love and commitment, and her desire to break from the cookie-cutter wedding styles of the past. However, as with any choice that defies convention, the gown became the focal point for disagreement. Enter the mother-in-law, a woman who had envisioned a different kind of wedding for her son, one that adhered more closely to tradition, and whose views about modesty were rooted in a more conservative mindset. The controversy erupts. The tension first surfaced when the bride, eager to share the gown she had chosen with her future mother-in-law, sent photos of it ahead of time. She had hoped to receive an enthusiastic response, one that validated her sense of style and the excitement she felt about her wedding. Instead, her mother-in-law's reaction was anything but supportive. "Vile," the mother-in-law had described the dress. "It's too revealing. It's disgusting. I felt quite ill looking at it." The bride was stunned. She had expected some level of feedback, but this emotional response was far more intense than she had anticipated. To her, the dress was a celebration of her own body, her confidence, and her freedom to make choices for herself. But to her future mother-in-law, it felt like an affront to everything she believed in when it came to marriage and modesty. The mother-in-law's reaction didn't stop at just words of disapproval. She reportedly went on to express her discomfort to her son, the groom, suggesting that he should somehow intervene to stop the bride from wearing something so shameless. She argued that this was not what a proper bride should look like, and that the gown would embarrass the family, perhaps even disrespecting their traditions and values. The bride, meanwhile, found herself caught between two conflicting desires: her own sense of self-expression and the pressure to appease a woman who would soon be her mother-in-law. She tried to explain that the dress wasn't about disrespecting tradition, but rather about expressing who she was as a person. Unfortunately, her explanation did little to ease her mother-in-law's feelings. The situation became a point of contention between the bride and the groom's family, and even spilled into wedding planning discussions. The mother-in-law's perspective. To understand this conflict fully, it's important to consider the mother-in-law's perspective. For her, weddings are steeped in tradition. The mother-in-law likely had her own image of what a wedding should look like, a more modest, conventional affair, perhaps reflecting values that have been passed down through generations. It's also possible that, as a mother, she felt a sense of ownership over her son's wedding, a desire to preserve certain norms and ideals that she believed would ensure the wedding remained respectable. In many families, weddings are about more than just the union of two individuals. They are about the joining of families, the creation of legacies, and the celebration of long-standing traditions. The mother-in-law, in this case, may have felt that the bride's choice to wear such a revealing gown was a break from those expectations, challenging her beliefs about how a bride should behave on her wedding day. Culturally, many people associate weddings with purity, modesty, and a sense of sanctity. The mother-in-law might have felt that her son's bride, by choosing such a gown, was disregarding these cultural markers. To her, the bride's attire might have seemed less about personal expression and more about self-objectification, or, even worse, a lack of respect for the seriousness of the commitment she was about to make. This, in turn, could have triggered feelings of discomfort or even disgust. The mother-in-law may have feared that the wedding, as a public event, would expose the family to ridicule, that the bride's bold choices would be seen as an indication that she wasn't taking her vows seriously, or that the gown would overshadow the sacredness of the ceremony itself. Such a response is not uncommon among people who feel strongly about maintaining traditions, and it can be particularly acute when those traditions are rooted in conservative ideals. The bride's perspective. On the other hand, the bride's decision to wear a daring dress was clearly personal. For her, the gown symbolized confidence, liberation, and a rejection of outdated ideals about women's bodies. She likely viewed her wedding as a celebration of love between her and her partner, not something to be confined to old stereotypes. For the bride, her wedding was an opportunity to showcase her individuality, a chance to assert that she was not simply a vessel for someone else's vision of what a woman should be. In her eyes, the dress was nothing more than an outward representation of the freedom and joy she felt about marrying the man she loved. When her mother-in-law criticized her choice, the bride likely felt deeply hurt. She may have perceived the criticism as an attack on her identity, an attempt to undermine her autonomy, and a form of judgment for being true to herself. To be told that her gown was vile might have made her feel as though her body was being condemned, that the very thing that made her feel beautiful and empowered was being rejected by someone she hoped would be supportive. This tension is compounded by the fact that weddings, by their nature, bring together many different values, beliefs, and perspectives. They represent not just the union of two people, but also the fusion of two families. When these families have divergent views on what is acceptable, it can create significant emotional strain. A reflection of larger societal themes, this disagreement, while personal, also speaks to larger societal themes about beauty, modesty, and the role of women in society. The mother-in-law's reaction to the bride's dress is emblematic of a broader cultural conflict between traditional values and modern sensibilities. On one hand, we have the conservative view that women should maintain modesty and decorum, particularly on a day as important as their wedding day. On the other hand, we have a more progressive view that embraces self-expression and the freedom for women to make their own choices about their bodies. The idea of modesty itself is subjective and influenced by a wide array of cultural, religious, and personal factors. What one person considers appropriate attire for a bride, another may view as prudish or outdated. The tension between these views is a reflection of the ongoing cultural shift that allows for more openness in terms of self-expression, especially among younger generations. At the core of this debate is a powerful question: who gets to decide what is appropriate? The bride, in this case, feels empowered to make the decision about her dress. Her mother-in-law, conversely, feels that the bride's choice is an affront to the values she holds dear. Ultimately, this issue underscores the difficulty of balancing individual desires with family expectations, especially when it comes to moments as culturally loaded as a wedding. A story of clashing values, the story of the bride's daring wedding gown and her mother-in-law's visceral reaction, is not just about a dress. It is a reflection of the broader tensions that arise when personal values clash with traditional ones. It raises important questions about autonomy, self-expression, and the complicated relationships that form in families. At the end of the day,